with the absolutely amazing Pam Grice from the Crochetpreneur. If you watched her premiere of her video just now, you had an absolute treat. Come on in and tell us what you thought, what your questions are. I have many burning questions that I've already asked them, haven't I? Anyway, once we've been back, we'll go over them again. So Pam, thank you so much for joining us to talk about selling crochet garments. We were so excited when you said yes to this because we wanted to have lots of variety within the summit. And, you know, it's all very well talking about the nuts and bolts of actually making the stuff. It's like, then what do you do with the things? Like, do you just make for yourself? Do you make for your family? Does that get to a point? And I have people who've messaged me this before of like, I don't know what to now do with my stuff. And it's like, well, you could sell it. But that's a whole different ballgame, as you have expertly explained. And we have people joining us. Awesome. Angela's here. Angela, I know you just watched the video because I saw you chatting in the sidebar as well. Hello, Edmund. Hello. And Eileen's here from Florida. Wonderful to have you with us. So yeah, come on in and ask us your questions. But yeah, my main point, wasn't it, before we started, was selling crochet garments is a whole different ball game, isn't it? A whole different kettle of fish. And it's, where do you go with it? How do you begin? How do you even figure that out as a business? And do you have to figure that out as a business before you start?
Yeah, well, I would. Because garments take so long, I think it's really important to ask yourself, is there a way for me to make a profit with this particular product line? And I'm sorry, my dog is trying to get into my office. So asking, how can I make this in order to make a profit? Or am I not even interested in a profit? I'm just doing this for fun, because yes, some people are doing that and we don't have to hate on them. We can just let everybody do what they're going to do. We all have different ideal customers and different places that we're selling. And so just, thinking about those important bits and pieces of, can I make this a viable business, and then move forward from there. If you're already a designer and you already have a stack of samples piling up, you're coming at it from a different angle. But, it is a question to ask, like, do I want to sell these things that are sitting around? I have enough photos. My pattern, it's long been selling, and maybe I want to have a designer clearance for my products. Well, then you don't have to worry so much about how high that profit margin is, because you've already made a lot of money, hopefully, off of that garment through pattern sales. And so the pricing might look a little bit different if you're having a designer sample sale, or they might be higher. It just depends on how you want to do it. So making decisions that are wise and, good for whatever your goals are.
Definitely. I've just made a connection in my head that it's taken me a while, but I've connected there that as a designer, then you already have an audience, don't you? You have a captive audience, and you have selling platforms, and you've got all these things set up. You might well have your Etsy shop. You've got places and people to email. Whereas if you are a maker and not yet a designer, or no intention of being a designer, you need to kind of start from scratch. You need to figure out where you're going to approach people, where you're going to find your audience, and what that audience looks like. Would that be right?
Yes. And so with a designer, some people might say, well, I'm a designer, but my audience are crocheters, so they can just make it themselves. Well, the thing with the garment world is that there's a lot of people who live with aspirations of being a garment maker. And once they start, they're like, this takes too long. This is hard. It's just easier to make a blanket, or they never finish. And so you can maybe take those people and turn them into customers for your samples. Yeah. So say, hey, did you try to make this on your own and you just never finished? It's been sitting in your whip pile for 3 years. Well, let's get this in your hands so that you can wear it. And you can even tell them you made it yourself if you want to.
Wow, that's good. Yeah, that's a good selling point. Anything handmade and handmade by a designer. Yeah, absolutely awesome.
Yeah, added value.
Yeah, Helen saying, what an inspirational video. I completely agree, Helen. I feel I want to start selling, and that wasn't even my plan. Yay!
There we go.
Awesome. Helen, which route do you think you will go? Let us know. because there's so many options, aren't there? And it's like, what's your best advice for people to make that decision? I know it's not a one size fits all answer.
It isn't.
Yeah.
So I think looking at what do I enjoy making, super important that you do enjoy what you're making. It doesn't have to be like my life's passion is to make hats. It doesn't have to be that much enjoyment, but if you're going to be making, sweaters over and over and over again, different styles, different colors, but still sweaters. If you don't enjoy making sweaters, please don't pick that niche. And then also asking this is an important question that people don't always ask themselves. Who do I like selling to? Yeah. Who do I like working with? Like, I don't know that I would love selling to super high-end boutique buying customers because I don't live in that world. I live on a farm, right? So I might want to sell to homesteaders. And so then I'm thinking about what do people who are homesteaders want to buy, right? Yes. They're going to be buying sun hats and things like that. So thinking about who do I enjoy working with, personality wise, lifestyle wise, who do I connect with most, and picking your ideal customer base around that, and then developing your product line around what you like to sell that they're going to spend money on. So that's kind of the magic potion there. So considering those things as you're picking your niche, I think is super important.
Yeah, definitely. And what would your advice be for people wanting to start and narrowing down that niche, but then do you make a whole bunch of stuff that works for that, or do you start getting orders first? Do you make commissioned work, as it were? Because obviously it's a massive outlay. Even if you buy not terribly expensive yarn, still a lot of money's worth to lay out, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think making a sample and taking custom orders so that you do get at least 50%, but I like to charge the entire price up front, because sometimes if you only charge 50%, the customer never comes back to pay you for your actual work, and they just ghost you and they walk away. And so when you get all of the money up front, and then I also include a shipping fee in that. So even if they could drive to my house to pick up the item, I still ship it to them because I don't want to take the time to hang around the house. I don't want to meet them somewhere. That time is money. You don't want to, go driving all over town. And so get the order, get the money, make the product, send it to them. And then, you're done with that process, rather than drawing the whole thing out and then you investing both time and money up front for a customer that you don't know. Maybe they will ghost you, and we don't ever want that to happen.
Definitely not. And Eileen's making a really good point here, saying even if you don't want to do your business out of selling it, it's great info for answering those people who ask, would you make one for me and I'll pay you? Oh my gosh, how many times have we been asked that question? Yep. Oh my goodness. Yes, it's so important, isn't it? Even if you're not making a business out of this, to know your worth and know your value, and to put a price on your time and your skill. Yeah, really important.
Mostly, I like to say, think about what you have to sacrifice in order to make that product. So if you have to sacrifice time with your family, if you have to sacrifice time working on growing your business, if you have to sacrifice, like for me, it would be sacrificing time with my grandson. I'm not really willing to do that for other people who, don't want to pay a premium for that. Yeah. So charge what will make it worth it to you to say no to those other things in your life. Even if you're not making a business of it, even if it's, for fun, you're still sacrificing your time to put into making those pieces.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's the same principle, isn't it, as if you were making hats or gloves or anything. Like, you'll still charge for your time, you'll still charge for your materials. But I think people have this hang up with garments. They're like, but it takes so long that, even a quick garment, like, how can I possibly charge an hourly rate for that? And that's something that you kind of have to get to grips with, isn't it?
You do. Your time is just as valuable as anybody else's. Like, you could go work at McDonald's for the price that some people are paying, or you could go work at McDonald's and make 3 times what some makers are charging for their time making these beautiful products, right? Yeah. And the finished product is longer lasting, doesn't just last for one meal, and is so much more valuable. And so really owning that for yourself and saying no to things that don't honor your time and your skills.
Yeah, definitely. Helen's asking, are there any legal issues with making and selling items that you've used from other designers? Very good question.
Yes. So it depends on the country that designer is in. So the designer's patterns their legal protections are dictated by where they live and what their copyrights are from the country they live in. So in the United States, you can purchase any pattern, make the product, and sell the product. The copyright or any legal rights that the designer has over the finished product do not exist. So I know people are not happy with that, but that's just the reality. And I know in the UK, the designer does have the legal right to say that you don't have permission to sell the finished product. So I think it's important if you're going to have a business and you'll be selling the physical products, that you understand those rules based on where that designer is from. And the best way to get the best information is to ask them.
Yeah.
Say like, hey, I know there's different laws in different countries. I'm not really sure where you are. What are the rules around your pattern, and may I sell the physical product? And you can send them a message before you make the purchase if you need to do that, so that you're not disappointed on the back end with a copyright notice that says you can't make the finished product. So that's what I always recommend, is just reach out and ask.
Yeah, because we're friendly, honestly.
We don't mind.
We don't mind. But I have like a disclaimer, where on all of my patterns that do state that, saying, in small quantities, go for it. Make and sell, and I wish you well. But yeah, different designers have different takes on it, and I think there are some designers as well that don't know the intricacies of the copyright law, etc. And like you're saying, they're not terribly happy with it. But the law is the law. But check and check again. And most designers are really happy for you to use their patterns however you would like to once you've made that physical product.
Yeah, I think some of those disclaimers sometimes say that a link or a mention for the designer would be very much appreciated. So it's kind of like a free advertising on a small scale.
Right. So when someone says, I could make that myself, you can say, great, here's the designer's name.
Yes. Because often I think, but then the audience is not the right audience. If they're at a craft market to buy a finished product, they're not people that want to buy patterns. But yeah, you're right. You might have that person that says, I quite fancy making that.
Yeah,
definitely. Oh, we have I haven't read it all yet. Do you think selling on your own website or online store is a good way to go? I plan to make wearables, but also home decor. Nice. But it would be a few of one item, and once they are sold, that's it. Okay, hang on, it carries on. At least until I know what sells well. Do you think that is a good plan, or would I be hurting myself?
Well, I don't think you'll be hurting yourself. The question I would have is, are you also selling on another platform like Etsy, where they're bringing customers into who are looking for your products? Because anytime you start your own website and you're a handmade product seller, you're competing against all of those listings on Etsy. So it's going to be hard for people to find you. And it will be hard. Yeah. So it'll be hard for your listings to get found. So I don't think that the sales is actually the hardest part. It's the getting found. That's the hardest part when you have your own website. So I think it's important to consider that. I think it's easier to find out what people are willing to spend money on in person, because you can talk to your customers face to face. And so I typically recommend, if you're selling physical products, to also be selling in person so that you can get that immediate feedback from people. So this is my mantra: give it a try. It's all an experiment. It's all an experiment. Everyone's business is going to perform differently. So experiment, give it a try, check your analytics, tweak things, change things, do it. Keep changing things until it works for you. So that's what I always recommend.
Yeah, and this is the thing, because I think it says they plan to make wearables and home decor. You can have two people start with the same kind of experiment to see what sells well, and one person could do so well with wearables and the other person can do so well with home decor. So it really depends on so many different moving parts to what works for everyone, because the two people trying the same thing could reach totally different audiences, can't they? And totally different people. One that are probably willing to pay top dollar for wearables, and the other group might, or the other person might reach a group of people that just want to spend perhaps the $15-20 on a washcloth to use in their kitchen. So yeah, it's definitely, like you said, give it a try and see what works. Definitely, that's a good way to go.
Yeah, I like it. And I love this comment from Joanne saying, when you reach out to a designer about selling the crochet item from their pattern, I find it's like networking. It absolutely is. Yeah, you're making connections. You're part of this wider crochet community that's so important. You know, designers love people reaching out to them and talking about their, I mean, like, you know, we're proud of the stuff we do. So we want to talk to people about it, and we want to know what you make from it. You know, if people contact me and say, I sold this from your pattern, I'm absolutely delighted. Please come and tell me.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than kind of putting a pattern out there and just like getting crickets, or just getting sales but getting like no kind of feedback, or no comeback from it. You think, okay, well, it is selling, but are people actually liking it then? Am I supposed to take it as like, yes, we like this?
I know getting feedback is so valuable from people, and it's like, oh, you know, every once in a while I'll get an email from someone with their like story about their business or something. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for telling me. Sometimes I'm over here just wondering, like,
what's going on?
What happened?
We have the Lopsided Crafter asking, do you recommend a blog for a pass through to Etsy listings, YouTube channel, etc.? So like, meaning like a hub, I suppose, a home for you.
So I think everyone should have a blog. That's just my own personal opinion. It's not necessarily my opinion, you know, business coachy opinion. It's just, it's so valuable to have a place to go where people can get to know you, where you can have, you know, you can have your opt-in, you can get people on your list, and you can make offers there. And yes, you can drive people over to Etsy, and then ultimately it can become another income stream for you as you get connected with an ad network. So, you know, YouTube, blogging, both of those channels, I think, are valid and valuable channels to build into your system of your business. So it could be either or it could be both. So it depends on your capacity and your time and how much you want to put into it. So
yeah. And I suppose the thing with your blog is that you own it. You know, Etsy could close down your shop tomorrow. YouTube could get rid of it. Like any social channels, anything that you don't own can get rid of you. So at least if you have your very own platform, it's yours, and then people can find you and you can begin again wherever you need to begin again. So yeah, I would definitely advocate it.
Yeah, and the same goes for email list, doesn't it? It's reaching people the best converting way, email list. So yeah, definitely get email list building onto your list of to-dos.
Yeah. Maureen,
you can start your website, just a landing page for your website, and an opt-in for your email list, and start there and just build out from there. So it doesn't have to be a months long effort to get a blog going. Start with where you are, with the easiest way to get started, and then grow from there. So don't make it overwhelming when it doesn't have to be.
No, I look back at when I first started my blog, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and nobody told me how. And it was really straightforward. But do you know what? It's got me where I am. So, you know, it works. Just build. You don't have to be all singing or dancing right from the very beginning, is what I think.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's the same as when you make that first wonky granny square, isn't it? You've got to start somewhere.
It's exactly the same. Yeah,
there might be 4 corners, or there might be 6 corners, who knows? But you know, it's just that first stitch, that first, you know, granny cluster, just get it going.
So many people are worried that their blog needs to be perfect when they first put it out there, and the thing is, nobody's going to find it. When you first put it out there, the only people who find it are the people you tell that it's there. So so don't worry about perfectionism. Just get it out there and then tweak it from there. Change your colors if you want to, change your logo if you want to, all of that stuff. But the worst thing you can do is not be visible online and have no place for people to find you. So create a space for people to find you and order.
Definitely. Maureen is saying, people constantly tell me I should make a business out of crochet and knitting, but when I explain how much I would have to charge for the items I typically make to make a profit, they think I'm crazy. Yeah, I think so many people come across that, don't they? You know, and it's about finding that audience, isn't it? Finding the people.
I was gonna say that if people think you're crazy, then they're not the right people to sell to.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is that you don't have to make a business. You know, there are people who are going to be pushing you and pushing you and pushing you to start a business. Like, oh my gosh, you do so well at that. You should start a business. Not everything has to be a business. If you want it to be a hobby and you just want to love what you're doing, that's okay.
Yeah.
So just know that you can tell those people, like, no, I don't want to. And you don't have to explain the charging thing. Just say, no, it's not something I want to do. The end. And don't get into it with them, because people will, if you give them a reason to, people will fight you on things that don't even matter. You know, they'll push you and be like, no, you need to do this. It would be so good for you. Like, no, I don't want to. Thanks.
So talking about sacrifice, is it better to use basic fiber as acrylic to sell garments, or is it better to do pieces with good fiber such as merino superwash? I love this question. It's such an important question.
So it depends.
As ever.
What's your brand? Who are you selling to? You know, high-end boutiques are going to want you to use high-end yarns. If you want to be able to charge less for your products, you're going to use a lower price yarn, which is typically going to be acrylic. And that comes with other issues of typically a lot of patterns are written for wool or for cotton when they're making garments. And when you make it in acrylic, it's going to come out a little bit differently. You might have to tweak things. You might have to play with it to get it to come out the way you want it to look. But, you know, there's definitely a price difference, and it really depends on your brand and who you're selling to. So if you're selling to people who are like, they like to shop at Target, or they like to shop at Walmart. Don't sell at Walmart, people. They like to shop at Target at the very least, right? Then you're going to be using lower quality, just like Target does. They charge a little bit higher than Walmart. Their clothing doesn't fall apart like it does at Walmart, but it's not high end. If you're going to be selling to people who buy from high-end boutiques, who like their Gucci, or they like their Chanel, or their whatever, you need to use high-end, beautiful yarns, and you're going to charge for that. So if you build your price of your supplies into your, you know, pricing structure, then it doesn't take money away from you. It just kind of builds the cost of that into your pricing structure.
Definitely. And that ties into what Maureen's saying here. To be fair, the cost of one sweater quantity of yarn is more than some people spend on clothes in a year. And that, but then there are going to be people that do spend that and then some on their clothes in a year. So it's about finding your demographic, isn't it? It's about finding your people.
The right audience. Yeah.
And no one can make that decision but you. That's the hard thing, I think, isn't it? If you could like give someone a formula of do this and this will work. It doesn't work like that, does it? In life, just in general, I find. But yeah, especially in this context, it's you that's got to make the decisions about what your driving force is and how you want to play it.
Mm-hmm. And the hardest part about being a business owner is making all those decisions. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're kind of starting out, it's like you said, it doesn't have to be a full-blown business that your family relies on. You could just start something small on the side and just kind of, like you said, give it a go and see where that takes you. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't have to be all singing and dancing and rely on that income right from the start, because that, I think that's half of the struggle. It's the pressure people feel sometimes with turning their hobbies into business, and you have to make it work and you have to earn this money. So maybe starting on a really small scale, or just as a side hustle. I mean, many huge businesses these days, they all started in as a side hustle. I mean, I believe Amazon started in his garage, like, you know, so absolutely, just give it a go.
Definitely.
It's so true. And I think if you're in a position where your family is relying on the money and you're just starting a business, that my practical advice would be to get a job where they're paying you a predictable amount of money.
Yeah.
And do this on the side until you build it up into something and you can afford to leave that predictable income, because you're going to stress yourself out saying, I have to. And desperation repels money and repels sales and repels customers when they're like, you're trying so hard to sell this to me. I just want to get away from you. If you're in the market, people don't like that. So coming at it with a more relaxed attitude will be really helpful. So, as much as maybe you want to get away from working for somebody else, sometimes it's the best option short term while you're building a business.
And like that kind of, like you just said, that desperate selling, that's not kind of the selling strategy to go and approach kind of high-end people and boutiques, is it? That's not, so definitely a side hustle is a good way to start if you can't afford to do it full time.
And I think that also then think about your own well-being as well, because if you are working so flat out, like most people, I assume, I got into crochet because I really enjoyed it and it relaxes me. And if you are not enjoying it, like you have to make these products, and if you are not enjoying the process of making them, that's going to be awful, absolutely awful. So pressure, you need to be in charge of the pressure that is put on yourself, I think. Don't you?
I think for me, I was doing custom orders for a long time, and even selling on Etsy of like, pick your color, pick your embellishment, whatever, and I'll make it for you. And then I started feeling that pressure of like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like making that. So then I started just selling, ready to ship. And said, this is what I have, buy this thing. And it took that pressure off of, now I just have to package it up and send it. So be willing to adjust based on how your business is feeling.
Yeah, definitely. We have a question here then. I have a crochet club at the school I teach. Awesome. What recommendation can you give me for students when they tell me they want to sell the items they made in the club?
Tell them to go for it.
Yeah.
So I have free resources on my blog at crochetpreneur.com, and I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com @thecrochetpreneur, and send them there and let them, absorb some information about starting a business. But I would encourage them. Some children are amazing entrepreneurs. I think of Jonah. I can't remember the name of his business. Jonah, the little boy who does all
Jonah's Hands. Is it Jonah's Hands?
Yes.
So he's a amazing little entrepreneur, and well, he's not so little anymore. But I would really encourage any form of entrepreneurship in children, and whether they sell at the school craft fair or they go to a farmer's market, it's really helpful if their parents are involved. Of course, that makes it so much easier. But as a leader of that crochet club, you could really influence these children's lives, whether they keep up with their little business that they're going to start, or if this is their experiment of stepping into the entrepreneurial world, and then they start something else as an adult, saying, I learned some really good skills as a child. I think it's really great if you can provide that opportunity for them, or just the encouragement.
Definitely. I love it. And children are so much more positive, I think, than most adults, aren't they? They're just like, I can do this. My children, I'm always like, okay, go for it. It's so refreshing, isn't it, with children? So refreshing.
And it's definitely time better spent than just playing perhaps video games or stuff like that. Just get that little fire in their belly going, and get them to do something. That's awesome.
So whose fault though is it if you make something in good yarn, they buy it, you give them instructions to look after it, but they don't follow instructions and ruin it and then want their money back?
It's a hard
no. If they ruin it, then it's their fault. I mean, there's good customer service and there's good business. And people not following the instructions is 100% their fault. And you can say, like, I'm really sorry, but I clearly told you how to take care of this and you didn't follow the instructions. So you might say, I'd be happy to give you a 10% discount or something like that, but you don't have to do that either. You don't want customers who are continually ruining things and wanting their money back anyway. So it's not like you're trying to build a long-term relationship with someone who is going to, try to, mess with your business that way. So,
I always kind of.
Oh, go ahead. So I have a phone call that I have to hop on with my own business coach. Now.
Well, we're out of time anyway. So
yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry. It's fine.
Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation and for joining us. And yeah, this is the end of our day 1. So everyone, we have a rest. I need a rest. We all need a rest. And we will be back tomorrow for lots and lots more.
Yes,
So
of course.
thank
Thank
you
you so much,
much.
Pam. Thank you. Bye-bye.